Welcome to Home Care Business Insights, your go-to resource for exploring the many aspects of running a successful home care business. Whether you're an industry pro, new entrepreneur, or just curious about the industry, this podcast offers strategies, tips, and solutions to help you succeed. While AI-generated voices host the episodes, the insights are real and designed with your growth in mind. Let's dive into what matters most in building a thriving home care business. Now let's hear from our AI hosts.
Welcome back to Home Care Business Insights. This is the podcast by the team here at Caring Senior Service, and it's specifically for those of you who are, kicking the tires on the home care industry. You might be looking at franchise opportunities, analyzing the market, and just asking yourself, is this the right next step for me?
It's the big question. And usually when people start that investigation, they go straight to the spreadsheets.
Of course.
They look at the territory maps, the demographics, all the royalty structures, all that hard data.
Which is important. I mean, you have to know the numbers. But today, we're going to do something a little different. We are not looking at the spreadsheets.
Okay.
We're looking at the human element that actually, derives the revenue in this industry. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but the thing you think you're selling in home care, it's often not what the client is actually buying.
That is exactly right. It's a classic business paradox. You open a coffee shop, you think you're selling caffeine, but what you're really selling is a third place, right? A break from the office or home.
Right.
In home care, the product looks kind of invisible. It's care. But the need for that product is often invisible too, at least, at first glance.
Okay, so that's our deep dive today. The psychology of your future client. We're calling this Hidden Needs Families Don't Talk About. And I want to start with a scenario.
Let's do it.
Picture this. You've signed the franchise agreement, you've got your office set up, and it's, say, Tuesday morning. The phone rings, it's a potential client. What does that voice on the other end usually sound like?
Well, surprisingly, they usually sound very pragmatic, very businesslike.
Really?
Yeah, humans are wired to problem solve, especially when we're stressed.
Yeah.
So when a daughter calls about her aging mother, she doesn't usually start the call, in tears. She starts with a list of logistics, just trying to order a service.
Like ordering a pizza.
A very, very complicated pizza. She'll say things like, Mom needs a ride to the cardiologist on Thursdays, or Dad is forgetting to take his meds, so we need someone to stop by.
Or the classic, the house is getting messy, we just need some light housekeeping.
That's a big one.
Okay, so on the surface, this just sounds like a staffing request.
Yeah.
They're asking for a task to be completed. Find me a person who can drive a car or push a vacuum cleaner.
Right.
If I'm a new franchise owner, I might just write that down. Client needs transportation. Done.
And if you do that, you are missing the entire picture. You're missing the sale. And frankly, you're missing the entire mission of the business. Because nobody wakes up one morning and decides to hire a home care agency just because the dishes aren't done. That's not how human behavior works. By the time they pick up that phone, there's usually been this massive accumulation of pressure behind the scenes.
So you're saying the request, the dad needs help bathing, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly. The visible need is task-based.
Yeah.
But the hidden need, the thing that actually made them dial the number, it's almost always emotional. We have to explore that gap between what they say and what they feel.
Let's dig into that then. When a potential client says, Dad needs help bathing, what's the subtext there? What is actually happening in that house at 3 a.m?
The subtext is usually a crisis of capacity. Dad needs help bathing often translates to, I have been waking up 3 times a night for 6 months to help him to the bathroom.
Wow.
I'm completely sleep deprived, my performance at work is slipping, I'm snapping at my kids, and I'm terrified I'm going to hurt his back or mine trying to lift him.
That is a completely different reality. You go from, I need a 20-minute task done to, I am physically and mentally breaking down.
Precisely. And this is where we get into the specifics. There are these key emotional drivers that are present in almost every single inquiry. The first one, as we just touched on, is burnout.
Right.
But I want to be clear, this isn't just, I'm tired. This is decision fatigue. They're drowning in medical jargon, insurance paperwork, and just the physical toll of the care.
Which explains why they might sound a little frustrated or short-tempered on the phone. As a business owner, you have to. You have to not take that personally.
You have to read between the lines. They aren't mad at you. They're exhausted. Then you layer on the second big driver, which is massive in this industry, guilt.
Okay, now, is this just the guilt of I can't do it all myself, or is it deeper than that?
Oh, it's so complex. There's distance guilt. I live 3 states away and I'm not there. Then there's capacity guilt. I'm here, but I have a job and kids, and I resent that I have to spend my Saturday managing my parents' pills instead of watching my kid's soccer game.
And then I assume feeling guilty about feeling resentful.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Nobody wants to admit that to a stranger on the phone. You don't say, "Hi, I resent my father's illness." You say, "He needs a ride."
Right.
But as a business owner, you have to hear the resentment and the guilt so you can offer the solution. And the solution isn't just the ride. It's the relief.
I want to challenge you on this a bit, though. I'm a business owner, not a therapist. Why does knowing about their guilt help me run a better franchise?
Because if you try to sell on logic, we have the best drivers, the best rates, you're competing on a commodity.
Okay.
If you sell on relief, we can give you your Saturdays back so you can be a mom to your kids again. You are solving a high-value problem. That is how you win the business.
That makes a lot of sense. You're selling the outcome, not just the input. What about fear? I have to imagine that's a huge component.
Fear is the constant background noise.
Haha.
It's this anxiety about the future. What if mom falls when I'm at work? What if she leaves the stove on?
Yeah.
But there's also financial fear. Can we actually afford this?
Uh.
What happens if dad lives another 10 years and the money runs out?
It's a powder keg. Just exhaustion, guilt, fear. And we haven't even mentioned the other people in the room.
The siblings.
The siblings.
Oh, the family dynamics are absolutely central. Conflict is a huge hidden driver. You might have one sibling doing 90% of the work. We call them the primary family caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
Well, another sibling lives in a different city and just criticizes every single decision.
The classic brother in California syndrome.
Exactly. He flies in once a year and says, "Mom, let's find to me. Why are we spending all this money?" When that local sibling calls a home care agency, they aren't just looking for a caregiver. They're looking for validation.
Validation.
They need a professional third party to step in and say, "Yes, your mom needs this help, and you are doing the right thing."
So in that scenario, the franchise owner is almost acting as a mediator.
In a way, yes. You're a buffer. You're the neutral professional that can de-escalate all that family tension.
This all leads to a concept that I found really profound when I was looking at the industry, and it's called role confusion. Can you break that down? Because that feels like the emotional core of this whole thing.
It really is. I mean, think about the natural order of things. Your parent takes care of you. They're the authority, the safety net.
Sure.
As they age, if you have to start, toileting your father or taking away your mother's car keys or managing their checkbook, that dynamic is completely shattered.
You stop being the child.
Right. You become the case manager. You become the nurse. You become the enforcer. And that is a profound loss. You are grieving the relationship while the person is still alive. The hidden need there is, I just want to be my mom's daughter again. I want to go over for tea and talk about the grandkids, not go over to argue about medication or to scrub the floor.
That is such a powerful pitch. You're not selling a bath. You're selling the ability to be a daughter again.
Exactly. If a franchise owner understands that that is what they're selling, the restoration of the family role, the entire sales conversation changes.
Okay, so we've established the hidden emotional needs. But I want to zoom out a bit and ask why? Why is this pressure building so much right now? Is this just individual families having a hard time, or is something bigger going on?
It is absolutely systemic. This isn't just bad luck for a few families. We are looking at massive societal shifts that are creating what we call a structural caregiving gap.
Structural caregiving gap. That sounds official. What's driving it?
Well, first, obviously, demographics. You hear terms like the silver tsunami, but the nuance is important. It's not just that there are more older adults. It's the acuity.
Acuity.
People are living longer, yes, but they're living longer with chronic conditions. We're talking about diabetes, mobility limitations, and especially Alzheimer's and dementia.
So people are living to 90, but they might need help for the last 15 years of that life.
Correct. So the demand for care is longer and much more intense. Now, contrast that with the supply side, the family. 30 or 40 years ago, families often stayed in the same town. There might have been a non-working spouse who could absorb the caregiving duties.
The stay-at-home daughter model.
Which is largely gone. Dual income households are the economic norm.
Yeah.
Everyone is working. And, structurally, families are geographically dispersed now.
Right.
You can't drop in to help mom with dinner if you live in Chicago and she's down in Florida.
And this brings us to that term we hear all the time, the sandwich generation.
It's a very real economic squeeze. You have adults, usually in their 40s or 50s, who are trying to manage their own careers. They often still have young children or college-age kids they are supporting, and at the same time, They're trying to care for aging parents. They're squeezed from both sides.
So the result of all this, demographics, health, geography, the economy, is that there is literally no one left to do the work informally.
That's the gap. Home care isn't just filling a service gap like hiring a gardener because you don't feel like mowing the lawn. It is filling a massive family support gap that simply cannot be filled any other way.
Okay, so if the need is so high and the pressure is so intense, here's my question. Why the silence? Why do families wait so long to make that call?
That's the sound of silence. And it's heartbreaking. There are deep cultural barriers at play here. There's this generational pressure to handle it ourselves.
You don't air your dirty laundry.
Exactly. You don't admit you're overwhelmed because that feels like failure.
I can see that. Saying I can't take care of my own mother feels like a moral failing to a lot of people, like you're abandoning them.
It does. I promised Mom I'd never put her in a home.
Oh.
Even though home care is what keeps them out of a nursing home, the act of hiring help can feel like a betrayal of that promise to do it all.
So they just avoid it.
They avoid the difficult conversations. They don't say, I'm scared about the cost. They don't say, my siblings aren't helping. They just grit their teeth and they push through.
Until something snaps.
Until the Christmas realization.
What's that?
It's a phenomenon every home care owner knows. Families gather for the holidays. The kids who haven't seen Mom in 6 months, maybe they've just been talking on the phone where she says, oh, I'm fine.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. They walk in the door and realize, oh my God, the fridge is empty. She's lost 20 pounds. There are bruises on her legs where she bumped into furniture. The house smells.
The illusion of fine just shatters.
Instantly. And that's when the phone rings at the agency. But because they waited, it's usually a panic call. Mom fell, or she's being discharged from the hospital tomorrow, and we have no plan.
And for our listener, the potential franchise owner, this is a critical business implication.
Yeah.
You aren't usually walking into a calm, rational procurement process.
No, you are walking into a burning building. You are entering at a moment of extreme emotional fragility. And if you treat it like a transactional sales call, here are our rates, sign here, you will fail. You have to treat it like crisis intervention.
I love that distinction, and that segues perfectly into the solution. As a franchisee, it is so easy to think you are in the staffing business.
It is.
You find a caregiver, you send them to a house, done.
That is the biggest trap. If you think you are in the staffing business, you are missing the entire point. You are in the stabilization business.
Stabilization, I like that. What does that look like in practice? What are the concrete outcomes when home care is introduced effectively?
Well, sure, the house gets cleaned and the senior gets bathed. Those are the tasks. But the outcome, the stabilization, is that the family caregiver finally gets to sleep through the night.
Right.
That improves their mental health, their job performance, their marriage.
It just ripples out.
It does. It reduces tension between the siblings because now there is a professional neutral party handling the heavy lifting. It creates a safer home environment, which reduces hospital readmissions.
Huge.
Which saves the healthcare system money. But more importantly, it saves the family from the trauma of another trip to the ER.
And it helps spouses too, right? Because if an 80-year-old is trying to lift their 80-year-old husband...
That's a recipe for disaster. Spouses regain balance. They can go back to being a husband or a wife instead of a full-time nurse.
And that brings us right back to that role confusion point. The ultimate benefit seems to be restoring those relationships.
That is the most powerful outcome. When you hire a home care agency, you are buying the ability to be a daughter again. You can go over to Mom's house and have tea and talk about the grandkids, rather than going over to argue about medication or scrub the toilet. The hidden need that gets resolved is peace of mind.
Peace of mind. It's a cliche, but in this context, it seems to be the actual product on the shelf. Now, I want to play devil's advocate again.
Go for it.
We've talked a lot about feelings, guilt, love, fear, but our listener is looking at this as a business investment. They need to see ROI. How does all this emotional intelligence translate to business viability?
It connects directly to market resilience. Because these needs are driven by those long-term demographics and health realities we discussed, home care is non-discretionary.
Meaning it's not a luxury item.
It is not a luxury. If the economy slows down, you might cancel your vacation. You might delay buying a new car. You do not cancel care for your mother who has dementia.
No.
The demand doesn't drop when the economy slows. That makes it incredibly recession resilient.
And it's relationship driven.
Right. It's not a one-time transaction. You aren't selling a roof that gets installed once. Revenue stability is tied to ongoing care needs. These relationships can last for years.
You become part of the family.
You become part of the family ecosystem. If you solve that hidden need, if you truly stabilize that family, they aren't going to shop around to save 50 cents an hour. You've become essential to their functioning.
So who succeeds in this? Based on everything we've talked about, the hidden needs, the emotional intelligence required, who is the ideal owner? Do you have to be a nurse or a social worker?
The profile is really interesting. It's not necessarily someone with a business degree, though that certainly helps. Often, it's individuals who have personally cared for aging parents. They've felt that burnout, so they understand the value proposition immediately. They get it in their bones.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
They've lived it.
We also see healthcare professionals who are seeking more impact. Maybe they're tired of the red tape in hospitals and they want to help people in their homes. But here's the surprise. We see a lot of corporate professionals, people we might call corporate refugees.
People leaving the rat race.
Exactly. People who have had successful careers in sales or marketing or management, but they feel a bit empty. They want to do something that matters in their community. The common thread isn't a medical degree. It's high emotional intelligence and a real desire to serve.
Community-oriented leaders.
Exactly. The core value here is that the business model works because it addresses both practical care and emotional relief. If you are the kind of person who can navigate that emotional landscape, who can walk into a living room where everyone is crying and be the calmest person in the room, you will build a very, very strong business.
So let's wrap this up. We started by asking what families are really asking for when they call. And the answer turns out to be a lot more than just a ride to the doctor.
It is. The opportunity in home care isn't just built on aging statistics. It is built on solving the problems families struggle to even articulate. We are talking about burnout, isolation, fear, and, guilt.
These are the hidden needs families don't talk about, but they are the needs that you, as a franchise owner, get to meet every single day.
And here's the final thought I want to leave you with. As a home care franchise owner, you step into the unspoken spaces of a family's life. When a family feels chaotic, when they feel like their world is spinning out of control because of a diagnosis or a decline, you provide the structure. You provide the stability.
That's a powerful place to be.
It is. You're the anchor. So the question for you, the listener, is, are you ready to be the person who offers that stability?
That's the question of the day. And if the answer is yes, then you're looking at the right industry. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden reality of home care. We are the Caring Senior Service team, and we will see you on the next episode of Home Care Business Insights.